Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast. My name is Emma, and I am so glad you are here with us today. This podcast is made for English learners, and we always keep our language simple and friendly so everyone can follow along comfortably. Today, we are going to talk about something that touches almost every person's life in the modern world. We want to ask a big and honest question. Is social media making us unhappy? This topic is very relevant and personal for many people. I am joined today by my wonderful co-host, Alex. Hi, Alex. How are you doing today?
Hi, Emma. Hi, everyone listening. My name is Alex, and I am doing really well today. Thank you for asking. I have been looking forward to this conversation all week because I think this topic is incredibly important for people of all ages right now. Social media is something most of us use every single day, sometimes for many hours. We scroll, we post, we like, we comment, and we share. But have you ever stopped and asked yourself, after spending time on social media, do I feel better or worse? That question is what today's conversation is all about. I think the answers might surprise many of our listeners. Let us begin.
Okay, let's dive right in. First, I want to ask you something personal, Alex. How much time do you spend on social media each day? I think it is a good idea to start honestly. I personally check my phone many times a day. Sometimes I pick it up without even thinking about it. It has become such an automatic habit that I don't even notice I am doing it. I open an app, scroll for a few minutes, close it, and then open it again 10 minutes later. This cycle repeats all day long. I think many people listening right now know exactly what I am talking about. Is this something you experience too, Alex?
Emma, I am completely honest when I say that yes, I do this too. I have caught myself picking up my phone and opening an app without even deciding to do it. My hand just moves automatically. I read somewhere that the average person checks their phone more than 90 times every single day. That is almost 4 times every hour if you're awake for about 16 hours. When I first read that number, I did not believe it. But then I started paying attention to my own habits, and I realized it was actually true for me too. This automatic, unconscious checking is one of the first signs that social media has more control over us than we think.
90 times a day? That number is really shocking when you think about it. And it makes me wonder, why are we so addicted to checking? I think one big reason is that social media platforms are very cleverly designed to keep us coming back. Every time someone likes our photo or comments on our post, our brain gets a tiny feeling of pleasure. It is a small reward, and our brain loves rewards. So we keep checking to see if we got more likes, more comments, more followers. It is similar to a game where you keep playing to get more points. The problem is that this game never ends, and always needing more can make us feel anxious and empty.
You are absolutely right, Emma. These apps are not designed by accident. There are whole teams of very smart people whose only job is to make the app more addictive so that you spend more time on it. More time on the app means more advertisements you see, which means more money for the company. So the goal of the app and the goal of your happiness are not the same thing. The app wants you to keep scrolling, but scrolling for hours often leaves people feeling drained, jealous, or unhappy. I think understanding this simple fact is very important. When you know why something is designed the way it is, you can make smarter choices about how you use it.
Knowing why these apps work the way they do gives us so much more power over our own choices. Now I want to talk about something that I think is the number one cause of unhappiness on social media, and that is the feeling of not being good enough. When I scroll through Instagram or TikTok, I see people who seem to have everything. Perfect hair, perfect homes, perfect relationships, amazing travels, and beautiful bodies. And even though I know in my head that these images are often edited and carefully chosen, my heart still feels a little sad sometimes. I think to myself, why doesn't my life look like that? Have you ever felt this way, Alex?
Yes, Emma. I think almost everyone has felt this way at some point. And you made a really important point. You said you know in your head that images are often edited, but you still feel sad in your heart. This shows how powerful these images are. Our emotional brain reacts faster than our logical brain. We feel the comparison before we can stop and think about it rationally. And the more we scroll, the more comparisons we make without even choosing to. Studies from universities around the world have shown that people who spend more time on social media report lower levels of satisfaction with their own lives, their appearance, and their achievements. The connection between scrolling and unhappiness is very well documented.
It is sad that something we use for fun and connection can have such a serious effect on how we feel about ourselves. I also want to talk about teenagers specifically, because I think they are the most affected by this. Young people between the ages of 13 and 18 are at a time in their lives when they are trying to figure out who they are. They are sensitive to what other people think of them, and they spend a lot of time on social media. Research shows that teenage girls especially report feeling very bad about their bodies and their self-worth after spending time on social media platforms. This is really worrying, and it is something that parents, teachers, and society need to take seriously.
The impact on teenagers is one of the most serious aspects of this whole conversation, Emma. I have a younger sister who is 16, and I see how much social media affects her mood. She can go from feeling perfectly happy to feeling really sad in just 10 minutes of scrolling. And when I ask her what happened, she says things like, "Everyone looks so much prettier than me," or "Why don't I have as many followers as her?" These feelings are real and they hurt. I try to remind her that what she sees online is not the full truth. But it is hard to compete with the emotional power of hundreds of photos all telling you the same message: you are not enough.
That story about your sister really touched my heart, Alex. It shows how real this problem is in everyday families. Now, I want to ask about something a little different. Do you think social media affects our relationships with the people we love? I sometimes notice that when I am with my friends or family, everyone is looking at their phone instead of talking to each other. We are physically together in the same room, but mentally we are each in our own little digital world. This feeling of being together but also being alone at the same time is very strange and a little sad. Do you think this is a common experience, Alex?
Emma, I think what you described is one of the most common experiences of modern life, and one of the saddest. We have a word for being physically present but mentally absent, and it is called phubbing. This word comes from combining phone and snubbing. Snubbing means ignoring someone rudely, so phubbing means ignoring the person in front of you because you are looking at your phone. Research shows that even when people are not actually using their phone but just have it on the table during a conversation, the quality of that conversation is lower. Just having the phone visible makes both people less engaged and less connected. Our phones are quietly stealing our most precious human moments.
Phubbing. I have never heard that word before, but it describes something I see every single day. This leads me to something I find really interesting and a little ironic. Social media was created to help people feel more connected. The original idea was beautiful. Connect people from all over the world, help friends stay in touch, help families share their lives. And in some ways, it has achieved this. I have friends from different countries who I stay connected with because of social media. Without it, I might never talk to them. So the original intention of social media was very positive. But somewhere along the way, something went wrong. Alex, where do you think things went wrong?
I think things went wrong when social media stopped being about genuine connection and started being about performance and popularity. In the early days, people shared real moments from their lives. A birthday party with a slightly blurry photo, a funny story about something that happened at work. These felt authentic and human. But slowly, social media became more competitive. People started trying to get more likes, more followers, more engagement. The focus moved from sharing your life to performing your life. And once everything became a performance, authenticity disappeared. People stopped sharing what was real and started only sharing what looked impressive. And when everyone is performing, nobody is connecting. That is where the loneliness starts.
Performance versus authenticity. That is such a powerful and true distinction, Alex. I also think there's a big problem with the news and information we see on social media. I often see very dramatic, scary, or angry content in my feed. And this is not by accident. Algorithms, which are the systems that decide what content you see, are designed to show you things that make you feel a strong emotion, because strong emotions keep you on the app longer. Unfortunately, fear and anger are much stronger emotions than happiness and calm. So social media tends to fill our feeds with upsetting content. Spending hours looking at upsetting content every day cannot be good for our mental health.
The algorithm and emotional content is such a crucial point, Emma. I remember reading about a study where researchers found that content that makes people angry gets shared much more widely than content that makes people happy or informed.
So the algorithm learns that angry content gets more engagement and shows more of it to more people. This creates a cycle where our feeds become more and more full of outrage, conflict, and bad news. Over time, this can make us feel like the whole world is angry and dangerous, even when reality is much more nuanced and hopeful than that. Our perception of the world gets distorted by what the algorithm chooses to show us every day.
A distorted view of the world is really dangerous for our mental and emotional well-being. Now, I want to make sure we are being fair in this conversation. We have been talking about many negative effects of social media, but I don't want our listeners to think that social media is completely bad and has no value, because that would not be accurate or fair. I personally have experienced very positive things from social media too. I have found wonderful communities of people who share my interests. I have learned new skills from free videos online. I have been inspired by people doing incredible things around the world. So social media definitely has real value. The question is whether the bad outweighs the good.
You are absolutely right to bring balance to the conversation, Emma. Social media has genuinely changed many lives for the better. Small businesses that could never afford traditional advertising can now reach thousands of customers through social media for free. Artists and musicians from small towns can share their work with the whole world. People with rare medical conditions can find communities of others who understand exactly what they are going through. During difficult times like the pandemic, social media helped people feel less isolated and more connected. These are real and meaningful benefits. The goal is not to hate social media or delete it completely. The goal is to use it wisely and with awareness of its potential harms.
Using it wisely. That is the key phrase, Alex. So let's talk about how we can actually do that. What are some practical things people can do to make their relationship with social media healthier? My first idea is something very simple. At the end of each day, ask yourself honestly, after using social media today, do I feel better or worse than before I started? If your honest answer is worse more often than better, that is important information. It tells you that your current way of using social media is not serving you well. This simple daily reflection can be the starting point for making healthier choices. You cannot change a habit you haven't noticed yet.
That daily reflection idea is really practical and easy to start, Emma. My first practical tip is about creating phone-free zones and times in your life. For example, decide that the bedroom is a phone-free zone. Charge your phone in another room at night. This helps you sleep better because you are not tempted to check it in the middle of the night or first thing in the morning. You can also create phone-free times, like during meals with family or during the first 30 minutes after waking up. These small boundaries protect your most personal and peaceful moments from being interrupted by social media. Start with just one phone-free zone and see how it feels.
Phone-free zones are such a healthy boundary to set, Alex. I have a no-phone rule at the dinner table in my home, and it has genuinely made our meals nicer and more connected. My next tip is about being a more active user instead of a passive one. Passive use means mindlessly scrolling through other people's content for a long time without any real purpose. Active use means using social media with intention, like posting something you created, having a real conversation with someone you care about, or searching for specific information you need. Studies show that active use of social media is linked to feeling better, while passive use is linked to feeling worse. So try to be more active and purposeful when you go online.
Active versus passive use is such an important distinction, Emma. The same app can make you feel great or terrible depending on how you choose to use it. My next tip is about doing a regular following audit. This means going through the list of accounts you follow and asking yourself honestly about each one. Does following this account make me feel inspired and good, or does it make me feel jealous, inadequate, or unhappy? Unfollow every account that consistently makes you feel bad about yourself, even if it is a famous person or someone you know in real life. Your social media feed is entirely in your control. Fill it with things that genuinely add value and positivity to your day.
A following audit is something I do every few months, and it always feels really refreshing and cleansing. My next tip is about setting specific times for checking social media, instead of checking it all day long. For example, you could decide to check social media only twice a day, once at lunchtime and once in the evening. Outside of these times, the apps are closed and notifications are turned off. This might sound extreme at first, but it gives you back enormous amounts of time and mental energy. Most importantly, it breaks the automatic habit of checking constantly without thinking. You start using social media intentionally rather than letting it use you.
Scheduled social media time is such a powerful way to take back control, Emma. I tried this for 1 month, and the difference in my focus and mood was remarkable. I also want to mention the importance of replacing social media time with real-life activities. When we reduce our social media time, we suddenly have more free time, and how we use that time matters a lot. If you replace scrolling with another passive activity like watching television for hours, the benefit is limited. But if you replace scrolling with physical exercise, creative hobbies, reading, cooking, or spending quality time with loved ones, you will likely feel much happier and more satisfied. Real-life experiences give us a sense of meaning that social media often cannot.
Replacing screen time with meaningful real-life activities is such good advice, Alex. Now, I want to talk about something very honest and maybe a little uncomfortable. I think many of us use social media to avoid difficult feelings. When we feel bored, lonely, anxious, or sad, we immediately reach for our phone and start scrolling. The scrolling distracts us from the difficult feeling for a moment, but when we stop scrolling, the feeling is still there, and sometimes it feels even bigger. Using social media to avoid feelings is not a solution, it is just a delay. Learning to sit with uncomfortable feelings, or to address them in healthy ways, is a much better long-term strategy for happiness.
Using social media as emotional avoidance is something I think many people do without realizing it, Emma. I'd certainly have done it. When I am stressed or worried about something, I notice I reach for my phone much more often. It gives me a temporary escape, but never actually helps me feel better about the real problem. I think a healthier response to difficult emotions is to name them, acknowledge them, and then do something genuinely helpful, like talking to a friend, going for a walk, or writing in a journal. These responses actually address the feeling, rather than just hiding it temporarily behind a screen full of other people's content and lives.
Naming and acknowledging our emotions instead of scrolling away from them is such a mature and healthy approach, Alex. I think we are getting close to the end of our conversation today, and I want to share one final idea before we wrap up. I believe the most important thing we can do is to regularly remind ourselves of what truly makes us happy in real life. For most people, the things that bring deep and lasting happiness are not things that happen on a screen. They are things like meaningful relationships, personal growth, time in nature, creative expression, and contributing to something bigger than ourselves. When we are clear about what really makes us happy, social media naturally takes a less central and less powerful role in our emotional life.
That final thought is so wise and so true, Emma. Real happiness comes from real life, not from a screen. I want to give a quick summary of everything we talked about in today's episode. We discussed how social media is designed to be addictive. We talked about comparison and how it makes us feel not good enough. We discussed the effect on teenagers, the problem of phubbing, and how algorithms fill our feeds with upsetting content. We also acknowledged the genuine benefits of social media. And we shared practical tips, including daily reflection, phone-free zones, active versus passive use, regular following audits, scheduled checking times, and replacing screen time with meaningful real activities. I think we covered so much valuable ground today.
What a wonderful summary of everything we discussed, Alex. I really hope today's conversation gave our listeners something new to think about, and one small change they feel inspired to try. Remember, the goal is not to delete all your apps and never use social media again. The goal is to use it in a way that supports your happiness, rather than quietly taking it away. You have the power to decide how, when, and why you use social media. Please use that power wisely and kindly toward yourself. Thank you so much, Alex, for being such a thoughtful and wonderful conversation partner today. And thank you to every listener who chose to spend this time with us. We will see you next time.
Thank you so much, Emma, and a huge heartfelt thank you to everyone who listened to this episode all the way to the end. The fact that you are here, learning and thinking about how to live a better and healthier life is something really special. Please take one idea from today and try it this week. Maybe put your phone in another room tonight before you sleep. Maybe unfollow one account tomorrow that makes you feel bad. Maybe have one meal without your phone this week. These small steps really do add up to big changes in how you feel day to day. Please share this episode with someone you care about who might need to hear it. Goodbye, and please take good care of your beautiful, real life.